Hello everyone. We are going to discuss two models today. Uh, One of them is the dependency model and the other one is the spiral of silence. Dependency model is the one which can also be known as a contingency model. Like it always reserves its decisions based on the circumstances within which three players are involved. It's the society, the media, and the audience. Now, it's a bit confusing, like audience and society are not two different things, rather society consists of people who are audiences. And also media is nothing outside of the society, which is a criticism on the dependency model. But the strength of the dependency model lies in the fact that it gives you a sociological analysis of media and its effect. Instead of looking at media effects based on different groups, it rather focuses on the larger structure. And the other thing about it is that, as you can see in the images, that it gives two different models. One is the structural one and the other one is the process one. The structural one means that the ways a society, media and audience are placed in modern societies. The process one is how does communication reaching audiences and moving from society, from within the society, media and audience circle reaches a possible effective position. Like it gives you what we call the arousal levels, which could be cognitive, like the way you see media, or what we call affective, means behavioral change. So it gives, in a nutshell, a good picture of how media works or how media interacts, because it doesn't give any priority to any of the players. It's a dependency model. Now, if we look at that, the first part is kind of the dependency state and the role of media. I'll quote it here, that the theory assumes that in a modern society, like in a modern mass society, the media can be considered as information systems vitally involved in maintenance, change and conflict processes at the societal as well as the group and individual levels of social action. So instead of communication processes, it's focusing on social action. It's telling you what is the role of different players, like three players, media, audience and society, and where are they placed. Now, like being a contingency model, it gives you this diagram like social system and the degree of stability, which varies. Like some social systems are very stable, good economies, like good international relationships, peace, health and assurance of life expectancy, not many internal strifes. That's a strong social system. The same social system might get down and become a weaker social system if there are catastrophes, human-made or natural, like wars, diseases. Like right now, President Trump has announced to really use his powers and dissolve the Senate, by the way, today. He's making a good use of the pandemic, unfortunately for the US people. So these are times when you are more prone to listen to media. So the role of media in society increases, like the social system becomes more dependent on information. Now here is the point basically why audiences are different from society, because the social structure is something that depends upon different forces within smaller social systems. And if a social system, like for example, one man in the US and his what should I say, his followers or whoever they are, the conservatives maybe, would like to take advantage of a human catastrophe. So the social system is where it is. And now people who are the audiences will listen more to the media and really would like to know the intentions of this one person. So part of a society, a social system, is behaving abnormally, like a human individual with a lot of power. So there is more need to know about the thing. Like the pandemic right now, everybody is interested in knowing whether there are more cases, how many people are getting cured, how are we doing when it comes to the whole world, and all these things. You see an enhanced need for the media. Then the media system itself is, in some societies, it's highly controlled. Like Pakistan is going through a phase where it is being controlled, like it's being muzzled slowly but surely, and I think the intentions of government are very clear, that they don't want to give more room to the media at least, and they also differentiate between the media and freedom of expression. They say media is lying the same way as Donald Trump is saying, and they say we have to control the media to control the lies and the damage being done to Pakistani society. So here it is, a media system might be free, it might be able to interact. Like Pakistani media system is really a mixture of both. It has a lot of freedom when it gets, and then when government or powers that be decide to take on the media, they don't have much left. So audience, on the other hand, are people who are either very well integrated and really know what the media is saying, or they are fragmented, and that's the way their dependency varies from time to time. That's the structural model. And now we come to the dependency effects process, which is simply based on two things. Like there are active selectors of media content, and there are casual selectors of media content. The active selectors will always follow the media. Like, not that they will blindly follow the media, but they'll give credence to whatever they get through the media. And in that way, the chances that they change their opinion according to the media advice, as we can see, that the greater the intensity of relevant dependencies, the greater the degree of cognitive arousal, meaning attention, that you look at it more, and affective arousal, liking, disliking, like you develop liking towards something or disliking. That depends. If you are in, so that depends upon how much actively do you follow. For a casual, which is very rare, like most of us right now in an information society, that we call these, are actively pursuing the media, and we are trying to form opinions through the media. But still there is this room where somebody might not be that much interested. And also, as audiences, we might be part of an elite group which has many other sources of information. Or we might be part of a group of people who are dependent upon one or two media, the dominant media system. Or for example, people in villages in Pakistan, more than 80% of our population is dependent upon PTV. And PTV most of the time gives the government research, all of the time, gives the government a narrative. So if you go to rural Pakistan, you won't find that complex debate about what's going on. It's rather more simplistic. Yes, but the media effect is managed in rural Pakistan by interpersonal networks. So it's always like the contingency model always sees dependencies within the context of social integration, the need for information, and the government's influence upon public life. So that's why, and now the last stage in it is that the greater the arousal, means the attention, the greater involvement in information processes.
And the greater the involvement, the greater the probability of cognitive, affective, and behavioral effects from the media.
So it's simply like if you are an active follower, or if you are a casual follower, you will need more arousal space to follow the news, and then to follow it to the limit where you change your behavior or like form your opinion. Like contingency model, the dependency model is not about changing behavior, it's about rather making decisions. We should keep in mind that it doesn't aim at changing human behaviors. So this is pretty much this one. So we have some time left, and I'll use that time for the spiral of silence. Spiral of silence is a very interesting theory, and let me tell you something. When I was a young teacher, one of our colleagues, and he was right when he said that he remained a student of Elizabeth Neumann. And I was going into my class, and I said, and I read the whole chapter, and I said, this is what I'm going to teach. And I asked him, how is it? Like, what's your, and he told me something, and I went into the class, and instead of relying on my own study, I just followed a guy who really didn't know about the spiral of silence. So I taught the wrong version. Rather, I taught it falsely, and I came back home. I was a young teacher then, and I looked into the books and I said, you have messed up big time. So I don't want to do that after 30 years. I think that, like, the spiral of silence is a very interesting theory. Like, the spiral of silence is something that we call in Urdu, log kya kahenge? What would the people say? Simply said, the spiral of silence is really going deeper. It's a study of German politics, basically. And in a nutshell, the spiral of silence means that people always try to what they call the environment, the climate of opinion. So each and every one amongst us will always, before expressing our views, we will see what the climate of opinion is, like which opinion dominates. And if we see that our opinion is not pretty much supported, then we will decide not to say it. And when more people think like that, society becomes silent. And that's true. And the study is based upon investigation into voting behaviors again, but the German politics, and it sees that what they call the role of silent majorities. The role of silent majority was later criticized by other researchers who said that it's a very pessimistic model, and rather we should look for vocal minorities. Like if a minority opinion is played up in media, it could become kind of a dominant opinion. It could affect voting behaviors. Like in the earlier cases, it was the study of voting behaviors, where both the parties had the same edge, like they were almost going neck to neck, but the SPD won because the SPD was more, and they were the Social Democrats, and they had more support in the media. So one is that you look for interpersonal context and you see what are people saying about that. So if you find that either your view could get more support, so you will be giving your opinion, or if you know that your view belongs to a dominant narrative, you will go for it again. But in case you come to know that your view is not going to get support, you will refrain from opening up. And this is what the spiral shows. And not to mess it up after 30 years again, I'll just quote Elizabeth Neumann. The more individuals perceive these tendencies and adapt their views accordingly, the more one function appears to dominate the other, and others to be on the downgrade. Thus, the tendency of the one to speak up and other to be silent starts off a spiraling process, which increasingly establishes one's opinion as the prevailing one. like this is the spiral, the image that you see, that those who have more support, rather that support is shown in the media or within the group. Sometimes people have those cultural tendencies of not talking about some things. So deviant behaviors are most of the time the silent behavior. But at times, as the model progresses, the process model of individual opinion, they say one's own opinion on an issue which can coincide either with the actual minority or the majority view. First step. Perception of the predominant position, which can be either correct or incorrect, like the way you see it. It's not always important whether some opinion is dominating or not, but rather the way you see it. And here is the role of the mass media or interpersonal interactions. If you sit in a group where people are just supporting one idea and you sit long enough, you will blend in and you will try to hide your opinion, which might be dominant ones outside that group. The same way, if you are subject to media and somebody has invested a lot of money into the media and somebody says, okay, this is what dominates, these are the ideas that dominate, pretty similar to the agenda setting, but here we are looking at basically individual decision making processes to the bottom, actually the way we decide. And you say, so this is kind of a dominant opinion. Minority opinion could also be dominating if it's given more space than it deserves, which happens most of the time. Assessment of the future trend, that's very important, which can favor either the actual minority or the actual majority. Willingness or not to express one's opinion. That's the second diagram. Now the point here is it's a simple process. Like you are part of a group of people and you discuss certain issues, and then you see that talking about a certain issue might not give you more support. It might not be good. So you will refrain from saying that because you will avoid conflict. And when many people do that, and that's where the media steps in, because media gives you a picture of the dominant opinion, which might not be dominant. Maybe some minority is investing more into the media. You can see millions of issues on media which are not important, but which are there. Unlike in times of war, like right now in the pandemic, when we talk about social distancing, and we blame the victims of this poverty-ridden society, the poor people, or keep a distance from these people. What are we talking about? We are talking about other human beings who are in majority, but their view is not part of your media debate. Social distancing is the only way out. But what we do is that most of us are unaware of the fact that in Lahore, for example, most of the patients who spread the virus were part of the posh societies over here. So they came into the defense or Beria or other areas like that, and they came from abroad, and on the airport they said, we have big houses so we can just check in and we'll quarantine ourselves and this and that. They came home, they started partying, they had money. Nobody's blaming them. But each and every time, if you have a housemaid or a servant, you say, keep a distance from this guy. This is how it works. A minority opinion, because of the wealth and the power they have, becomes a majority trend, and you are in no position to support, to oppose that. Rather, you are silent. You won't really support the poor people, that they are taking all the care that they could. So this is the victim blame hypothesis. But it's happening right now amongst us. So that's the spiral of silence. Like the individual's decision not to express their opinion or to express their opinion doesn't rest with the truth, but the way their opinion is accepted and the prevalent environment that you have for an opinion. And this idea, let me check the time, I don't know what's there. We have a minute. So basically, many of other ideas, similar ones, like the bandwagon in advertising, like the silent majority already discussed, and things like that are also related to spiral of silence. I hope it's useful. Thank you.